Sixers,
oh, baby,
and Flyers.
He scored!
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig.
it's good!
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
And he scored!
Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort studio, here's Josh Hennig.
Josh Hennig here on 97.3 ESPN. The day after the Eagles' first loss since September. How crazy is that? We have not been able to come on 97.3 ESPN FM or the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle or right here on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig. We have not been able to say the Eagles have lost since September. And realistically, there were a couple of specific reasons why they lost. And I want to get into all of that this hour. Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press will join us coming up in less than 20 minutes from now. And as always, you guys can join the conversation at 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. So let's get down to it because there are some very interesting takeaways I have from the game yesterday. And I really do think it starts with something that Nick Sirianni said to the media yesterday. Now, today he didn't really say much, and frankly, there was no surprise about it because I said it before Mike Gill started the Sports Bash on 97.3, talking to the guys, and I said, I guarantee you, we will not know anything about who is or is not playing this Sunday until Thursday. The Eagles are going to use this holiday to keep it absolutely like it's a secret of the Pentagon who is or isn't playing this week. They're going to use this holiday to the full advantage. But there was one part of what Sirianni said on Sunday that I think has to be the starting point of any conversation that we have about the Philadelphia Eagles today.
Just sloppy, sloppy with penalties, sloppy with too many men on the field, sloppy with our fundamentals. And when you play a good football team like we played today and you're sloppy regardless of how many turnovers you force, it's going to be hard to win. And I think, what I said to those guys is like when it's sloppy with every piece of that, that's always going to be on me as the head coach.
Now, look, the end part I could care less about because that's Sirianni just being Sirianni, okay? But let's be realistic. The sloppy part of it is a huge conversational point. Because if you are the Eagles, I don't know how you differentiate these, but to me, there were some obvious points of contention in the game yesterday. First of all, poor tackling, okay? Multiple points in that game where the defense just couldn't make a tackle. And that is a discipline issue. And I don't know who on the coaching staff has to be the one to say it, but someone has to say it. These guys got to be called out for horrible tackling, poor communication when C.J. Gardner-Johnson went out of the game. I'll get to C.J. in just a minute. How about the poor play calling by the coordinators? You had 24 pass plays in the second half yesterday. Why are you asking your backup quarterback, who has gotten basically no reps, like legitimate reps, with the first team offense since training camp, and you're asking him to throw the ball 24 times? And I understand there's some of you out there like Mike Gill who said, well, they weren't running the ball well. Well, whose fault is that? Listen, I had to listen to Lane Johnson go on Chris Long's Greenlight podcast. Talk about how I don't like passing. I prefer run blocking. We all do. We all want to run the ball. Well, maybe if you run blocked a little better, maybe, I don't know, you don't ask Kenny Pickett to pass the ball too much. Or maybe Kellen Moore is not the greatest coordinator as we were all led to believe. I've been questioning this man all year, and I don't understand why I feel like I'm the only person out here who questions this guy. And I finally got people to come to my side yesterday when I was sitting in with Billy Schweim in the locker room. Him and Dave Klemick kind of gave me yeah, it's a good point, Josh. Well, yeah, it's a good point because I have been an Eagles fan for almost 40 years now. There's never been a point in my life where Philadelphia sports fans have not questioned the coach until 2024. I have heard people talk smack about Andy Reid, Ray Rhodes, Doug Peterson, Nick Sirianni, John Gruden, Rich Kotite, whatchamacallit, at times even Jim Johnson and Sean McDermott and Juan Castillo and Billy Davis and Brian Johnson last year and Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon and Jim Schwartz and a partridge in a pear tree. But for some reason, nobody wants to say you know what about Kellen Moore. Also, the lack of discipline, Jalen Carter, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, they got to get their attitudes in check. And I thought Pete G brought a great point up earlier on the Sports Bash. It's like Draymond Green in the NBA. It's like teams are looking at these guys now with the same bias they do about Draymond Green in the NBA. Like, they're expecting these guys to pop off, and they're going to penalize them as soon as possible. All right? Then, what else was sloppy yesterday? The drop passes. Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown. These guys are dropping passes. Again, it's not Kenny Pickett's fault with some of this stuff. I'm not going to sit here and be the guy who says Kenny Pickett, he needs to be better. Because frankly, Kenny Pickett is who Kenny Pickett is. If you didn't watch Kenny Pickett in Pittsburgh, you wouldn't know that Kenny Pickett is an average NFL quarterback. He has the acumen to make passes and throws and some plays, but he's not going to be the reason why you win games. He's going to be the reason why you don't lose games. And I was sitting there at Lascala's Beach House at Brigantine. I'm turning to Nick Earnshaw and Danny Ryan and Billy Schweim and the Mr. Negadelphi, and I'm telling them all over there, Pickett's going to throw an interception. You watch. And literally 10 minutes after I said that, boom, there's the interception. Because that's who he is. So again, why are we asking this man to throw the ball 24 times? And by the way, whoever's dumb idea was to call the Saquon Barkley Wildcat throw play that was a complete failure, that guy should just be told to never call that play again. And I'll get to your text in just a bit at 609-403-0973. A couple more things. The C.J. Gardner-Johnson ejection really bothers me. And it's not just because it was arguably the biggest reason why they lost the game, ultimately, because the defense failed, okay? The defense dropped the ball at the end of the game horribly. Because the moment C.J. Gardner-Johnson left, it was after that point Washington scored 22 points in the fourth quarter. So, Vic Fangio, Zach Bond, and the entire Eagles defense, Darius Slay, all of you guys.
You have failed this city.
You guys got to get together and say, I know CJ's not out here, but we got to adjust. We got to hold down the fort. We have a lead. They had the lead. They had the lead. Now, the whole issue with CJ getting kicked out seems to be a bias by the refs. I don't know what was said, and frankly, I don't care. Unless C.J. Gardner-Johnson, threatened to hurt the referees or threatened the family of another player, there is no scenario where the man should be kicked out of the game for taunting. The referees told the pool report, quote, C.J. Gardner-Johnson was basically taunting the opponent, and that's why he got the second foul. He already had a first early in the game, and we had announced as his first toward disqualification. So this became his second. He was taunting the player, so that is a disqualification by rule. There is a fine line between trash talking and taunting. The fact that they gave him a first foul toward disqualification when the helmet was ripped off of his head is an embarrassment by the refs. And again, if we're going to flag CJ for taunting and create that as a disqualification potential foul, you got to tighten up real good on the rest of the league. No more trash talk for anyone. You cannot have selective officiating for just one guy. And as Chris Long said on the Greenlight podcast, when C.J. Gardner-Johnson left the game, that was the reason why Washington scored 22 points in the fourth quarter.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson leaving the game, that really hurts. The kind of curious circumstance around him leaving. The safety depth, McCollum, getting beat on the play that draws them within one. The communication on the final touchdown, which is between Bond and Blankenship. But to have a quarterback of your defense on the field makes it easier.
Now, look, if you want to say that CJ needs to get his emotions in check, fine, okay? But why did Fangio and the Eagles coaching staff not make a better adjustment without him? Why is Bond and Blankenship arguing after the Crowder touchdown? And by the way, on top of all of this, how on earth do you have 12 men on the field? And it's Darius Slay is the one who has to run off the field, leaving Olamide Zaccheaus wide open for a touchdown. Nick Sirianni is right. It was an overall sloppy game. 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. All right, I'm going to get some text before we hit the break here. Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press joining us in about 7 minutes from now. Texter didn't leave their name, so I'm going to read their text anyway. He says, you calling Kenny Pickett average is wild. He's not even close to a top 15 QB, which is what average is. Maybe he's an average backup, but he's not an average quarterback. Yeah, the defense only created 5 turnovers. I guess they got to get 6 or 7 next time. Come on, Josh. Well, first of all, there's a reason why I didn't bring up the turnovers. Because the turnovers don't matter when you allow 22 points in the fourth quarter. So don't come on me. Come on you for ignoring the facts. What is the purpose of winning a game? To not allow the other team to score more points than you do. So turnovers, I don't care. Because at the end of the day, the scoreboard says Washington scored 22 points in the fourth quarter. So come on me. Come on you. Also, you're being literal, okay? As the world's foremost expert on being literal, I never said he was top anything. I said he's an average quarterback. If you take, let's see here, there's 32 NFL teams. Let's say there's 3 quarterbacks in each team. So that is what? 96 quarterbacks. So out of the 96 quarterbacks, he is in the middle. Man, some of you people just don't know how to listen. Monday Marcus, a much smarter person, chimes in. He says, happy holidays, Josh. So why did we take 2 timeouts back-to-back? And why, after being gashed in the middle of the field by Jaden Daniels' arm and legs, why would Vic Fangio spread those backers out so much on the last play? There are many moments that contributed to Washington's win. Not overreacting, but they have to clean it up with a weak opponent coming up and another who would just love to beat you, talking about Dallas. For what was needed, Pickett was serviceable. It's Monday Marcus. Now, first of all, it's a much more intelligent text than the last guy. Second of all, yeah, Pickett was serviceable. I don't blame him. That's why I said I don't understand why you're asking him to throw the ball 24 times in the second half. I thought it was a poor adjustment for a team that during the 10-game winning streak, we had applauded Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio being great at in-game adjustments. Yesterday, they were both poor at it. You're right. Why is Fangio making some of these calls? And it's almost like he was overthinking. I don't know exactly, but you're right. Dallas would love to ruin things for you. And the Giants is probably going to be a game you sit your starters anyway. So to me, that's how I'm looking at this game. Monday Marcus, good text. The other person who wouldn't leave their name, it's a bad job by you. Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press joins me next. I'm Josh Hennig, and this is 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle City, and we are live on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig.
This is the radio home for Philadelphia Eagles football. The Eagles continue the 2024 season this Sunday, hosting their NFC East rivals, the Dallas Cowboys.
Rush back. He loads it. He hit it. Fumble. And the Cowboys try to pick it up. The Eagles have it.
Pre-game coverage starts at noon with Merrill Reese and Mike Quick calling all the action starting at 1 p.m. This is the play-by-play home of the Philadelphia Eagles. 97.3 ESPN, South Jersey's Eagles station.
Save thousands at Matt Blatt Kia. Get out of your old trade today, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Go to mattblattkianj.com for more details. That's mattblattkianj.com.
It's gotta be a
Matt Blatt Kia.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies candidates with the right skills, sends you great matches, then you can easily invite them to apply. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. See for yourself. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/free to try ZipRecruiter for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Breaking news, and this one is almost unbelievable.
Yeah, it's all about new customers at Bet365 because...
65. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in New Jersey. Terms and conditions apply.
Do you lay awake at night worrying about what to buy everyone on your holiday list? Well, Skechers is here for a holiday rescue with hands-free Skechers slip-ins, the right gift for everyone on your list. Because with hands-free Skechers slip-ins, you just step into them and they're on. There's no bending down, no touching your shoes, no retying laces. Plus, Skechers slip-ins are perfect for everyone. Moms, dads, grandparents, kids, friends, coworkers, and they're the most comfortable shoes they'll ever wear. Find them for the holidays at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
Brand new Kias are less than lunch at RK. RK Kia of Vineland. Plus, you get RK coverage. RK does it right. RK Kia of Vineland. MyRKKia.com.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
Progressive Insurance presents the Sports Flash on 97.3 ESPN. The Eagles saw their 10-game win streak come to an end Sunday, lose in Washington to the Commanders 36-33. Commanders get the go-ahead touchdown with 6 seconds remaining. Rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels had 5 touchdown passes. Washington also had 5 turnovers, but still got the win. Philadelphia lost quarterback Jalen Hurts in the first quarter due to a concussion. Kenny Pickett came in at 143 yards passing with a touchdown. Saquon Barkley, 2 touchdown runs, had 150 yards on the ground. Major League Baseball, the Phillies acquire left-handed starter Jesus Luzardo along with the minor league player for 2 prospects in a trade with the Miami Marlins. Luzardo went 3-6 last season with an ERA of 5 and 12 starts for Miami. NHL, the Flyers are in Pittsburgh tonight to take on the Penguins, and in the NBA, Sixers home to face the Spurs. Progressive Insurance, bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. I'm Tony Desiri, and that's your Sports Flash on 97.3 ESPN.
Let's play Bet Your Life. It's the game show where you gamble not only your life, but those of your passengers and fellow drivers when you get behind the wheel after drinking.
If only it was just a game. It only takes one bad decision to change your life forever. Getting behind the wheel after you've been drinking is one of them. Don't play games that nobody can win. Drive sober or get pulled over. This message brought to you by NHTSA.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. Here we go. Watch for slippery spots and reduced visibility tonight as temperatures drop and rain changes to snow by around midnight. A heavier snow band is a possibility overnight through tomorrow morning. Low temperature dips to 32. Snow showers wrap up mid-morning tomorrow, up to an inch on the ground. Then partial sunshine, windy and cold. We're in the 20s tomorrow afternoon. High on Sunday, only 28. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
Hi, this is Michael Charlton, President and CEO of Atlantic Care. For over 125 years, you've trusted us with your care and well-being. This season, let's cherish what truly matters: our health, loved ones, friends, and neighbors. From my family to yours, happy holidays.
This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Gritty performance from Kenny Pickett, but it just wasn't enough because he didn't have a full deck. And then obviously some of those shots that you could take to A.J. Brown that he hit for penalties or even receptions might go for longer. However, a lot of those threes turn into fours down the red zone and that sort of thing. And that's why you need your defense to step up. They didn't play their best game.
That was Chris Long on the Greenlight Podcast. Eagles lose for the first time since September. And as Rob Maaddi well knows, Philadelphia sports fans, the range of takes are diverse. Rob, welcome in. How you doing today?
Hey, what's going on, Josh? Is it the end of the world today? Season's over. Everything is doom and gloom. Hey, it's Christmas in 2 days, man. You're going to lose a game. It's unfortunate how it happened, but I'm sure we're going to break it all down.
Yeah, so let's get to this to start. You heard Chris Long mention that, Pickett wasn't playing with a full deck. Basically that, you're asking a guy to come in cold and to play in a game that, the guys have played with the first team since, August probably. So, I thought it was grossly unfair, Rob, that they asked this guy to throw the ball 24 times in the second half of that game yesterday. Like, why is he dropping back 24 times? I understand you weren't running the ball very well, but I feel like for a team that makes such great adjustments during a 10-game winning streak, Rob, yesterday might not have been Kellen Moore's finest hour.
Yeah, he came in and threw a third down pass on his very first play, as fresh and as cold as can be, and converted it and had success on his first couple drives. And then they had the 3 straight punts, went into the second half, had to settle for field goals 4 times. I just think they weren't comfortable with the way they weren't getting any push on the offensive line as far as in the run game. Those holes closed up really quickly, and that's what happens when you stack the box and you want to take Saquon away, and the defense has no fear of Kenny Pickett keeping the ball on any of those RPOs and running it himself. This isn't. It's a completely different offense when it's not Jalen Hurts, or at least a quarterback with the ability to hurt teams with his legs, the way Jalen was before he went down. What was he, in the 40s on yards rushing? So I thought that was a big part of it. Obviously, when you can't run the football effectively, and then you got to pass, and they were having some success, even in plays that aren't converted. When you get the passes that aren't caught, when you get 3 penalties, I don't think I've ever seen 3 DPIs on the same player, or even at all on the same drive like that. And it was all in the third quarter at some point, and they still couldn't convert that into touchdowns. That's very disappointing. I think Kenny might have locked in too much on AJ. Clearly, he did that on the 1 pick, but we saw, Josh, just how much Jalen Hurts means to this team. Even when he's not playing at a level that fans are willing or accepting of and accustomed to, as far as the 2022 season and when he was an MVP candidate and his numbers are down, even when he's not at that elite level, he's such a threat, and it changes the complexion of the offense. And we saw who the real MVP of the Eagles offense is, and that's Jalen Hurts.
With that being said, I'm going to assume that they make adjustments this week, and they'll make plans for whoever starts the quarterback on Sunday. They'll have multiple plans. And we also know, because of the holiday, that we won't know anything until Thursday about what's going on. But still, I think a lot of people look at the game yesterday, and they see a team that had a lead, Rob, and they blew it. And, however you want to break it down, at the end of the day, the scoreboard said 22 points by Washington in the fourth quarter. And it's kind of wild that for 10 games, we were applauding the defense, right? And now yesterday, C.J. Gardner-Johnson leaves the game, and it's like they had no answers, Rob.
That's who I pinpoint this loss on. And obviously, if Devontae Smith catches that pass, they win the game. Just like in week 2, if Saquon Barkley catches that pass, they win the game. And you could be looking at 14-1 if two guys who know how to catch footballs make easy catches. And it didn't happen. And both times the defense gave up in a 2-minute defense against 2-minute offense. They gave up game-winning touchdowns against Kirk Cousins and the Falcons in week 2. And yesterday against Jaden Daniels. The defense completely fell apart without CJ, GJ, whose decisions continue to hurt the team. And I know that there's some questions about what we don't know what he said or what the taunting was or what it looked like. And if fans want to complain.
Can I ask you about that real quick, about the taunting?
Yeah.
What can you clarify what the taunting rule is? Because listen, I'm not going to act like I know the rule book perfectly, but to me, as a competitor, I think everything is fair game unless you're threatening people. Like, if someone's like, I'm going to come to your house and harm your family. Like, to me, like there's this gray area between competitive trash talk and taunting. Because the average person who's not playing in the NFL probably looks at it and be like, who cares what they say?
Yeah, you can't taunt, and I got to go back and look at the wording of the rule book, but you can't taunt someone directly, which is wild because they're talking trash all game long, right? You hear them mic'd up, and you hear BG, and he's always having fun with it. You can't point at a guy, you can't point in their direction, you can't celebrate whether it's a first down or a touchdown or a sack at them or over them. I don't know what he did, and I don't know what he said, but whatever it is clearly crossed the line, or it did in the referee's opinion, and it got him tossed out of that game, and that hurts the team. And there's nothing good that can be gained from whatever it is that he said. And then I know he went on Instagram and live during the game and starts calling out the officials, and I'm sure he'll get a fine. But we've seen lack of discipline. We've seen these penalties. Jalen Carter again, and yeah, it was ticky-tack, but so was the DPI on Marshawn Lattimore, where A.J. Brown had his hand in his collar, and Lattimore. So you win some, you lose some, and I think they all even out. And Eagles fans want to complain about the calls that went against them. There's some calls that went your way for 40-plus yards on a DPI too. So you got to be better than that. And if that's what motivates you to play is talking trash and taunting and being whatever it is you feel like gets you going, figure it out within the rules, because at the end of the day, you're hurting your football team, and you can't have that, and you can't win meaningful games. So a 15-yard penalty in the wrong spot. I've seen 15-yard penalties on 3rd and 16, and somebody does something stupid, and it's an incomplete pass, and now all of a sudden, instead of a punt, it's a first down. It's like a turnover. It ends up being a turnover. So CJ Gardner-Johnson's got to figure it out. We all know he talks a lot of trash, and that's part of his game. Back it up on the field. Just go out there, get the job done, win football games, try and win a championship, instead of yapping the entire game and whatever it is, play within the rules. If they don't want you taunting an opponent or whatever it is that you're doing, now you learn for next time. But you got yourself tossed out of a game when your team needed you, when they were down a quarterback, and the secondary was. That's what's so disappointing, Josh, is that the secondary was in complete disarray without one guy, without CJ Gardner-Johnson, and you would think they'd be better equipped to handle that.
Yeah, the whole 12-man on the field and Darius Slade running off the field, leaving Olamide Zaccheaus wide open for the touchdown. I mean, if that doesn't encapsulate what you just said, I don't know what does. AP senior NFL writer Rob Maaddi joining us here on 97.3 ESPN. You mentioned about CJ and Jalen Carter both getting flags thrown on them. Is there any concern that these guys are developing reputations and that maybe referees are starting to look at them a little more closely?
Oh, 100%. Guys know, referees know who the players are, because the week prior, just look at the week prior, there were 5 Eagles or 5 fines, and CJ was one of them. Jalen Carter was one of them. refs know going in who the guys are to look out for. And then sometimes the opposing coaches and opposing players are going to point them out. And you kind of put a target on your back. You're going to be watched more closely. You may not get away with as much. I don't think what Jalen Carter did warranted a penalty. I just thought there was a little bit of embellishing. There was a little bit of extra there. Yeah, it was extra. It was after the play was dead. It was after the whistle.
It was a great Rob, it was a great soccer flop if you're watching a soccer game.
Yeah, and it got him called a penalty. And last week it was a head slap. So they're going to be watched a little bit closer. They're going to be scrutinized by these officials, and you have to be. And Nick Sirianni's got to figure this out, and he's got to. They got to talk to him. They got to talk to him and tell him, be careful, because you're going to cost your team. And yesterday it cost them a W, which really cost them a shot at the number 1 seed. And now if the Lions end up losing one more game, and the Eagles would have had that number 1 seed, like, you can pinpoint it back to all that nonsense that helped contribute to it. It wasn't be all end all, but it contributed to a loss.
Yeah, it absolutely did. All right, so this is going to be a selfish question by me. So I have a listener who's really mad at me because I called Kenny Pickett an average NFL quarterback. And the guy is like freaking out on me. So I want to ask you. So, there's 32 NFL teams. There's 3 quarterbacks on every team. So you have 96 quarterbacks, right? So out of 96 quarterbacks, is it fair for me to say Kenny Pickett is smack dab in the middle of that 96?
48 out of 96.
Yeah.
He's probably somewhere in the 32 to 48 range.
So you have him higher than I do.
I wouldn't have him that much higher. I think, and it's a little bit unfair because he's coming in cold yesterday,
right?
But he is what he is. He's a backup quarterback in the NFL, with all the weapons that he had around him, with the offense as dynamic as the Eagles have it, full. Everyone was available, full availability. Saquon was out there. AJ was out there. Devontae Smith was out there, and 4 drives that they had to settle for field goals. They couldn't get a touchdown. That tells you that he's not top tier. He's not a starting quarterback. So I would be closer to where you are than I'm not sure where that caller who's mad at you has Kenny Pickett ranked. Does he think he's a starting quarterback? Like, there's a reason why.
No, he thinks he's the worst.
He got Russell Wilson, right?
No, he thinks he's the worst. He says Pickett isn't average. He's one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL, period.
Oh, one of the worst. Yeah, no. Has he seen like some of these other guys play?
Will Levis, Anthony Richardson.
I wouldn't put Kenny Pickett in the worst category. Like, have you seen Dorian Thompson-Robinson? Have you seen Aiden O'Connell at times? Even Gardner Minshew, like, who had his moments with the Eagles. He was terrible at times this year.
Can I ask you about DTR real quick? Because I feel bad for the guy. Like, the Browns are so intent on starting DTR that they created an injury for Jameis to be inactive yesterday. And I'm just thinking, Rob, the Browns and the Raiders are 2 different franchises. The Browns look at their franchise as trying to tank. Meanwhile, Antonio Pierce is like, we don't care about picks. We don't care about your fantasy team. We're going out here to try to win, And it's like, the Raiders are going to potentially lose the first overall pick, Rob, because they're still trying to win. And the Browns are like, we're going to start a guy who shouldn't even be starting because we're trying to lose. Like, the dichotomy of the 2 situations is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and I think the Cleveland Browns are doing it the smarter way, because if you're not going to the playoffs, really, it's about getting the best draft positioning. Who cares? Like, you're the Raiders and you just beat the Jaguars yesterday.
Right.
Whoop-de-doo. Like, oh, wow. Other than I picked them to win, and I was happy for that outcome. Like, other than that, I mean, come on. You're better off with draft positioning, and now you're going to lose out your choice of quarterback at number one if you have to settle for 2 or 3 or wherever you're going to drop to. So I actually think that the Browns are doing it the right way, because starting Jameis, you never know if you're going to get a 5-touchdown Jameis or 5-interception Jameis, but you can't bank on either one, and you can't risk 5-touchdown Jameis, and if that happens, now you're going to win a game, and you certainly don't want to win a game. They're not in contention for the 1 spot, but how every spot matters, especially when, even if you want to trade back or trade up, if you're in a top 7 or the top 10. So kudos to the Browns. I think they're doing it the right way.
I do think it's funny the Giants started Drew Lock yesterday, and because they started him, now they got to pay him extra money of incentives.
That's just, and he helped them lose with the 2 pick sixes.
I know.
They would have lost anyway, but that's a little baffling with the Giants today. That's the Giants, man. They had no problem giving Daniel Jones $40+ million when everybody knew Daniel Jones is not a $40 million quarterback.
Right.
And here you are 2 years later, and now you're looking for another quarterback, and at least in their case, they're going to probably end up with the number 1 pick.
See, what other confounds me also about the Giants, Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press, at Rob Maaddi on the Twitter X platform, joining us here on 97.3 ESPN. What confounds me about the Giants is the Mara family are like football lifers. Like, they've been around the game for a long time. Like, John Mara wasn't born yesterday. He saw Bill Parcells in the 80s and later Jim Fossil, then Tom Coughlin. Like, it's not like these owners are like, they just showed up one day. It's like, I want to buy a football team. Like, this is not who they are. So it's like, how do you explain these people who are running the Giants being allowed to, like, to me, Joe Shane shouldn't have a job. But yet every corner of every report I see is, well, Joe Shane will keep his job, but will Brian Daboll? And I'm like, no, keep Daboll. Like, to me, Daboll isn't the problem here, Rob.
I agree. I mean, Brian Daboll 2 years ago was the coach of the year. And
right.
I think given the pieces, and
he won a playoff game with Daniel Jones. The man should deserve like an extra 2 years on his contract for that.
On the road against Minnesota too.
Right.
And I think if he's got the pieces to work with, he can have some success. So the decision makers are the ones you got to look at the guy who assembled the roster. Now, of course, if you bring in a new GM, he might want his own coach, and that's usually what happens. But if you bring in a new GM who's okay with keeping or at least giving him a year and seeing how it plays out or how they can work together, like, that's what makes the most sense to me at this point with that organization. And it surprises me because, as you said, like, John Mara is one of those guys who's held in high regard across league circles. He's not someone who's looked upon as an owner who gets too involved, doesn't know what he's doing. Let's just stick with New York. He's not looked upon in the same light as Woody Johnson.
Thank you.
And we don't even have to go outside the city. We can stick within the same stadium and make that comparison. Woody Johnson has a completely different reputation as someone who may not be as competent in that position.
Yeah, asking about Madden ratings,
Yeah, that's that one is it was interesting when I saw him the day of the Devontae trade, and he was quoting Ricky Bobby.
Yes.
I'm standing there.
I remember
listening.
you tweeting. I remember you tweeting about that because you were like, you said something to the extent of like, I'm quoting Woody Johnson, but I can't believe I'm quoting Woody Johnson here.
It was like a Ricky. Yeah, was that the movie Ricky Bobby? Was that like a race? Yeah,
racing movie with Will Ferrell.
Yeah, and I'm like, all right, that's what Woody Johnson's quoting right now as he's talking to the media here, and obviously Bill Belichick's had some criticisms that were pretty valid. So it's surprising that the Giants organization right now is in that kind of state of absolute flux, and we don't know what direction it helps when you land a franchise quarterback. Then again, if you're the wrong franchise, even landing that franchise quarterback may not be the be-all, end-all to all your answers. Oh, look at the Jets. They have Aaron Rodgers, who I know he's coming off an injury this year, and he struggled a little bit earlier. He's starting to pick it up. He's 40 years old, but the pieces around him and everything else just hasn't worked. It just hasn't worked.
I will say about Rodgers, and I know the guy gets a lot of criticism in part because he's a lightning rod for saying stuff, right? But at the end of the day, I'll never forget when Brady talked about how when he came back from his knee injury, that it took him until the year after he came back until he really felt like himself. And Brady was like 10 years younger than Rodgers is now when that happened. So I got to think that when you're older, I don't care how great of your recovery and rehab was, there's got to be a part of you, Rob, that's like, I'm not really myself right now. And if you look at Rodgers' stats, you realize that, frankly, it was from, what was it, the Texans game to now have been his best games this year. It wasn't before that.
Yeah, and I would say that an Achilles injury for a quarterback coming back from that is a slower recovery as far as feeling yourself than even the ACL, just because of your legs, with the placement of the Achilles, the push off, the comfort level, as opposed to putting a brace on your surgically repaired ACL. Because I've had an ACL, and they tell you you're fine, you're stronger than ever. The brace is more so for a mental part of it, just to get over that hurdle and maybe not re-injure. But it's the Achilles is a completely different animal, and that's an injury that I just think is so much more difficult, especially as you pointed out, Aaron Rodgers' age. Look at Kirk Cousins coming back off the Achilles too. He had a down year to the point where he got benched. Yeah, he had some highlights. He had a 4-touchdown game, a 500-yard game. He had 2 Player of the Week weeks, and he had 3-4 nice games overall, but still just hasn't consistently been himself. And I think both quarterbacks, Rodgers if he plays next year, and Kirk wherever he ends up, I think they'll be in a better position next year because they'll be a year and a half, 2 years removed from that Achilles.
You led me to my final question, Rob, because you brought up Kirk Cousins. Is Kirk Cousins going to be the 2025 version of Russell Wilson? That, Russ, things didn't go well in Denver, right? But he's been a lot better in Pittsburgh. Could Kirk Cousins go somewhere next year and just be much better next year than this year like Russ has been?
Yeah, 100%. I don't know where yet, right? You got to look at the situation, which teams are like Russell goes to Pittsburgh, and it's a winning organization. They got a strong defense. They got some pieces, although they don't have wide receiver depth. And You've seen how they've struggled without George Pickens. Like, I think Russ could be even better if he actually had some weapons. Like, I'd love to see what Russ could do with guys like A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Not that that's going to happen or anything along those lines, but that caliber, that quality of wide receiver, C.D. Lamb, the Justin Jeffersons, those guys. Now, Kirk next year, wherever he ends up, and it's going to be dependent upon the situation. Is he going to come in somewhere as a guy? And I don't know why he would want to do this, but he may not have options, because as you run down a list like of teams that have quarterbacks locked in, franchise quarterbacks, and where he's going to go. Raiders need a guy. Giants need somebody. Jets, depending on Aaron Rodgers, if they want to move on. If not, do they go after another older quarterback? Most of these teams are going to draft somebody in the first round. Is Cousins going to want to be in a position where it's the same as in Atlanta, where he didn't know they were going to go draft Michael Penix? Wherever he goes next, if it's a team that's in the top 5, he's going to know they're going to draft a quarterback. So that said, if he's given the opportunity to play, I think he'll be. I think he can bounce back from this. He's still young enough to where he can have several years ahead of him if he feels that he's in that right situation. If you put him in that right situation.
He's Rob Maaddi at Rob Maaddi on the Twitter X platform. Of course, he's also the host of Faithful to Feel It, heard Saturday and Sunday mornings on 97.3 ESPN. Rob, appreciate you joining me today. Merry Christmas to you and your family. I hope you get to enjoy some of the holiday, even though there's 2 NFL games that you have to watch.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. Merry Christmas to you and your family and all the listeners out there, and wish them all a happy new year, though I'm sure we're going to talk before the year is out. Appreciate you, my friend.
Appreciate you, Rob. Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press, at Rob Maaddi on the Twitter X platform. Josh Hennig here in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios here on 97.3 ESPN. We'll check it back on the text board one more time before we wrap up the Power Hour, known as Game Night on 97.3 ESPN.
It's Sixers basketball tonight on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the Sixers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Cross court, Paul George, three-pointer in the air. It's good! PG for 3!
It's Sixers Spurs tonight. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. It's Sixers basketball all season long on South Jersey's radio home for Philadelphia 76ers basketball. 97.3 ESPN.
Go to get your game on at the Gallery Bar Book and Games at Ocean Casino Resort. Cheers your favorite drinks while cheering on your favorite team. Get in on the parlay while in the middle of a party. Go for the sports scene and go for the endless screams. Go to the Gallery. Go to the Fanatics Sportsbook. Go for the win at Ocean Casino Resort. For more information, visit theoceanac.com. Must be 21 or older to wager or consume alcohol. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential. But finding those people can be a major hassle, unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. With ZipRecruiter, one click sends your job to hundreds of top job sites. But more than that, ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies the candidates with the skills you need, sends you a list of great matches to review, then actively invites them to apply for your job. And the results speak for themselves. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's right, the first day. Now you can focus on your business and let ZipRecruiter do the work finding the best people for you. See for yourself. Experience the ease, efficiency, and power of ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
'Twas the month of December, and all across the lot, the people were raving about the Kias they got. It was the best holiday ever, and everyone had it made, cause Matt Blatt Kia gave them more for their trade. It's the Season of New Traditions sales event. Currently buried in a loan or lease, Matt Blatt Kia wants to get you released and into your brand new all-wheel drive Kia Sportage or Sorento SUV. 0 down, 0 payments until March, or 0% for 48 months. So bring any old sled, because if you have a job clearing $450 per week, you too could be approved. And drive home in a brand new Kia K4, just $159 per month lease with 0 security deposit and only $36.50 due.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
With approved credit, $13.89 per thousand finance. Not all will qualify. Credit may affect down payments. Offers can't be combined. Go to mattblattkianj.com for complete details or 888-505-6670. Price includes all costs to be paid by consumer, except for licensing, registration, and taxes through KMF. Rebates and incentives to dealer. Expires 1/4/25.
Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township,
and on Route 37 in Toms River.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Are you a victim of the timeshare trap and think there's no way out? I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, the original timeshare cancellation expert. And I'm here to tell you that there is a way out. All you need to do is give my office a call. I will send you a timeshare exit information kit absolutely free, explaining how the timeshare industry works and your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free info kit. Call 800-761-0000. 800-761-0000.
Paid for by Wesley Financial Group.
Let's play Bet Your Life. It's the game show where you gamble not only your life, but those of your passengers and fellow drivers when you get behind the wheel after drinking.
If only it was just a game. It only takes one bad decision to change your life forever. Getting behind the wheel after you've been drinking is one of them. Don't play games that nobody can win. Drive sober or get pulled over. This message brought to you by NHTSA.
For 75 years, Jenkins Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning has been the name you trust, where one call does it all. Jenkins expert technicians have been delivering top-notch service to local homeowners. Renovating your kitchen or bath? Call Jenkins. Need a new heating or air conditioning system, service or maintenance, or even ductless air conditioning? Jenkins has you covered. They also specialize in water heaters, boilers, oil service, plumbing and drain cleaning, water line, and sewer main repairs or replacements. Call 609-641-6262 or visit jenkinsandsons.com today.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues? Who are you? Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
It's the Wrap Up the Year sales event at Kendall Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram with low APR financing and high cash allowances on select 2024 and 2025 models financed by Stellantis Financial through January 2nd, 2025. For work or play, Kendall Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has something for you during the Wrap Up the Year sales event. Shop their huge 100-acre lot just off exit 10 of the Parkway on Stone Harbor Boulevard, or shop from home at KendallDodge.net.
Lowe's knows that to win the job, pros need the best prices. That's why only at Lowe's, MVP's Pro Rewards members can get a volume discount on eligible orders as low as $1,500 at the Pro Desk. That means you get the prices you need to start any job, small or large. Because Lowe's knows pros. Valid in-store only. More terms and restrictions apply. Visit Lowe's.com/terms or Pro Desk for details.
Progressive knows finding your new home was a dream come true. You wanted a walk-up with central air and a skylight, and you found it. Now, every Friday night, you get to fall asleep to the sound of your downstairs neighbors' dance parties. Progressive can't save you from your noisy neighbors, but we can save you money when you bundle your home and auto with us. Get a quote at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
Downy Rinse and Refresh. Break up with stinky clothes.
Rinse it out. Every now and then I get a little bit tired of the stinks that just will never come out. Oh, Downy in the rinse change. Every now and then I rinse it.
Tuckerton at Doyle's Poorhouse, where great food meets a family-friendly atmosphere. Craving a hearty meal or a place to unwind with friends? Doyle's Poorhouse of Tuckerton has it all. Mouth-watering dishes crafted with care and the best events in town. Live music nights and community gatherings. There's always something happening at Doyle's Poorhouse of Tuckerton. Visit them today and experience the warmth of their hospitality. Doyle's Poorhouse of Tuckerton, where every visit feels like coming home. Visit Doyle's Poorhouse of Tuckerton, your new favorite spot for food, fun, and family.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and on the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Speaking of Doyle's Poorhouse in Tuckerton, after Christmas, our final Eagles watch party of the 2024 NFL season will be this Sunday at Doyle's Watch Party. Of course, Doyle's and Poorhouse at Tuckerton will have a Saquon Barkley Eagles jersey along with NJ Lotto tickets to give away. That'll be this Sunday. Remember, the Eagles game is at 1 o'clock. The game time was changed. Eagles, Cowboys this Sunday. All right, a couple texts get in before we get out of here. Andrew in Summers Point says that was the most Christian way that Rob could agree with you without being derogatory toward that texter. That's from Andrew in Summers Point. George in Summers Point says, I agree with you and Rob when discussing yesterday's game being a sign what Jalen really means to his team. I also think that it's a sign that Kenny Pickett is a subpar backup quarterback compared to what the Eagles usually have on the team. You know, George Summers Point, that's a great point because historically Philadelphia has had some great backup quarterbacks. You know, Nick Foles being the most famous among them. And I think that we have seen this organization win games with backup quarterbacks like Nick Foles, like A.J. Feely, like Kevin Cobb. And so I do believe there is a part of the conversation that does say, hey, we expect more of this guy, and maybe he's just who he is. I'm Josh Hennig. I'll get you tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN.
Hi, this is Michael Charlton, President.
All right, so let's do a little cleanup here for the YouTube crowd. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. You get only the post-show conversations right here on my YouTube channel. One, I will be on from 2 to 6 tomorrow. So I'm filling in for Mike Gill on the Sports Bash for Christmas Eve. So the live stream and the show will start at 2 o'clock and not 6 o'clock. That's number one thing you need to know about tomorrow. Number two, the plan is no shows on Christmas. So if I do pop on Christmas, it will not be in a show capacity. It might be with doing something else, but we will be back again live Thursday at 6 p.m. And then Friday, we'll do a special Football Friday YouTube-only special, okay? So that's the upcoming week with the holidays. So that's the cleaning up the business there. Before we get out of here, I didn't get a chance to talk about the college football this weekend. I think that, and listen, I went 3-1 on the college football playoff picks. Good for me. But that's not really the point I want to talk about here. I think that we have learned in the college football world is that the committee has got to do a better job not at picking the teams. Because I know a lot of people are saying that, SMU, Tennessee, Indiana, they all looked bad. They didn't belong to be there. And I do agree with you that there is an argument to be made that SMU and Indiana should not have been in the playoff, and they got completely outclassed and outbeat by their opponents. I don't disagree with that at all. To me, the bigger problem with the College Football Playoff Committee is not that those teams won. It's that the committee has to come up with a better set of criteria for why they should put a team in and not another. This idea of a good loss is going to be the doom of this playoff system. This idea that Indiana had the best loss and that SMU reached their conference championship game, and those are the reasons why we are going to turn around and give them spots in the playoff. I think that is where the great flaw. I think that is where the great problem is. So for someone like myself, when I look at a game like this, I'm very, 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 very well aware that when Indiana gets blown out and SMU gets blown out and Tennessee gets dominated, there is a perception by the fans. But to me, the issue wasn't putting those teams in. It was the why behind it. The why is what's important. You can't put a team like Indiana in and a team like SMU in just because other teams didn't fit the criteria. That would be like in the NFL saying, hey, the team that is tied with another team, we're going to let them in because we like their losses better. By the way, you go through the NFL tiebreakers. That is never a factor in the NFL. Yeah. The NFL tiebreakers are head-to-head, win-loss percentage in games played within the conference, win-loss percentage in common games played, the two teams who they played, then strength of victory. So how good were your wins? Strength of schedule, how tough was your schedule? And then that's best combined ranking among conference teams in points scored versus points allowed, meaning your point scored versus points allowed differential. Nowhere in the NFL's tiebreakers does it say, hey, you had the best loss, you get to go to the playoffs. And that's the problem with college football. What you're doing is you are now incentivizing teams to put better teams on their schedule. What you're doing is you're incentivizing teams to put a couple of good teams on their schedule. And if they lose that team, it's okay because you can make up for it by having a 10-1 record. But if you're one loss, well, that loss is dismissed. SMU, the same deal. They reach their conference championship game. We ignore their strength of schedule. We ignore their strength of victory. We ignore everything they've done the entire year because we are hyper-valuing them getting their conference championship game. It's not that SMU and Indiana are better than Alabama or Miami or Colorado or Kansas State or even South Carolina. It's the criteria and the rationalization for why that is the problem. You can't tell me that the sky is purple when I see it's blue. And the problem with the College Football Committee is they're trying to convince you and me that the sky is purple when I clearly know it's blue with white skies. The College Football Committee is trying to tell me that it's warm outside, but I'm freezing. Stop lying to me and just tell me what the criteria is. But the problem is, I don't think the College Football Committee knew what the criteria was. I think they were making it up as they go along. And next year, they're going to have to do a better job at being specific. And frankly, you had 3 blowout victories by teams over the weekend that were disappointingly not close. And we've already seen that the ratings were not good for the games that were not on ESPN. The games that were on TNT and TBS did not do well this weekend. And I guarantee you, if those matchups were, just to use an example, instead of SMU at Penn State, Alabama or Miami at Penn State, or if the Notre Dame-Indiana game was, and again, I'm just using this as an example, if the game instead was, let's say, Colorado, South Carolina, you got to remember that it's just as important the why as much as the who and the what. All 3 are important. And college football let us all down this weekend. And I'm disappointed. Listen, it's great. I went 3-1 on my picks. That's cool and all. But I want better for my college football. And listen, football is my favorite sport. I love it. And I hate that I had to go through a weekend and watch a bunch of mediocre football. And it's not like the next round will be any better because Penn State versus Boise State, it's going to be a low-scoring game, but ultimately Penn State's going to win. Oregon, Ohio State's going to be a great game. But don't tell me Texas versus Arizona State's going to be a great game. I think Texas is going to wreck them. Texas is the best team Arizona State has faced all year. And the only reason why Arizona State is in the college football playoff is because they won a conference that cannibalized themselves. The entire Big 12 conference beat each other up so bad that nobody was really worthy in terms of their resume for the college football playoff. If Colorado wins one more game, if Kansas State wins one more game, if BYU doesn't collapse down the stretch of the season, all of those teams could have had a chance at the postseason. Instead, you're stuck with Arizona State. It's a shame. It's a real shame. All right. Thanks again for everybody watching. YouTube exclusive conversation at Josh Hennig on Twitter X, at Joshua S. Hennig on Instagram, right here on my YouTube channel at 973 ESPN. Of course, you will hear me tomorrow on 973 ESPN FM and the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle, and streaming live right here on my YouTube channel at 2 p.m. tomorrow. I'll be on from 2 to 6. If you missed the show, of course, all the shows are uploaded after the show and live right here on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig. Thank you for watching. Again, please like, subscribe, share with your friends. I always appreciate your support, and I'll catch you tomorrow.